I never thought I'd be the type of guy to get blindsided like this, but here I am. My name's Mike, and I was with Emily for about 5 years. We got engaged last year, and I honestly thought we had a normal, good thing going. She was pretty much my world, beautiful, smart, ambitious. Everyone said we made a great couple. But lately, I'd started noticing little things that didn't sit right with me. She'd be secretive with her phone, always hiding it when I came into the room. She'd cancel plans last minute or suddenly be too busy to talk. At first, I brushed it off as her being stressed with work or busy with her new job in marketing, but the signs kept piling up. She'd also get really defensive whenever I asked about her whereabouts or her conversations. She'd say I was paranoid or insecure, that she loved me, that she'd never do anything to hurt me, words I'd heard a million times before. Still, I felt something was off. Then came the weirdest part. I started noticing her messages on social media, the way she'd be overly nice to her boss, Robert. He's about 10 years older, sharp dresser and very charming in a way that's hard to ignore. I saw how she'd smile at her phone when she thought I wasn't looking, and there were these flirtatious touches she'd brush off casually, like rubbing his arm during meetings or leaning into him when they talked. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but deep down, I knew something was wrong. The gut feeling was gnawing at me, especially after I caught her lying about a late-night work dinner she had last week. She said she was out with her colleagues, but I found a suspicious message thread between her and Robert that suggested otherwise. It was late at night, and she'd been texting him about meeting up after hours. The messages weren't explicit at first, they were just casual, joking about work stuff, but then it changed. There were references to how much she missed him, the way he made her feel, and wanting to see him again soon. I felt like my stomach dropped out, like someone punched me in the gut. I remember confronting her about it the next day. I couldn't hold it in anymore. I told her I saw the messages and asked what the hell was going on. Her reaction: she looked at me with this icy, bitchy glare and told me I was paranoid, that I was just imagining things. She said Robert was just a business acquaintance, that I was reading too much into it. She told me I was insecure, that I didn't trust her, and that I was ruining what we had over nothing. But I know her better. I saw her guilty face, the way she stammered when I pressed her. She lied, flat out lied, and tried to make it seem like I was the crazy one. That moment hit hard. I felt betrayed before I even knew the full extent. I started digging more, going through her phone when she wasn't looking, checking her social media. That's when I found the texts she didn't think I'd ever see, more intimate, more revealing. She talked about how Robert was the man she'd been dreaming of for months, and how she couldn't wait to leave her life with me behind to be with him. She even said she'd been sleeping with him for months, right before our wedding plans, right before she told me she loved me and wanted a future. I felt like the ground was crumbling beneath my feet. This wasn't just a fling, it was a full-blown affair. She had been planning her escape while pretending to be the perfect fiancé. The shock was overwhelming. I felt numb, angry, hurt all at once. How did I miss all the signs? How could she lie so convincingly? And her lies didn't stop. She kept insisting it was all a mistake, that she loved me, that Robert was just a mistake she'd made. But everything pointed to her being manipulative, selfish, and cold. I couldn't believe I'd been played so easily. The worst part, she still had the nerve to act like she was the victim, like I was overreacting. I knew then I had to do something or I'd never get closure. I had to plan my next move, but I wasn't sure what that was yet. All I knew was my world had just turned upside down. After I found out the truth, everything changed. I couldn't sleep, I couldn't eat. My mind was racing, trying to process how she could lie straight to my face, especially after I'd given her all my trust. I kept replaying every moment, every smile she'd given Robert, every time she'd brushed off my questions with her fake laughs and dismissive attitude. It was like she was a different person, a bitchy, manipulative version of the woman I thought I knew. I started noticing more small signs, like her avoiding my eyes, canceling plans at the last minute, or her quick, nervous glances when I was near her phone. She was hiding something. I could feel it. The worst part was the way she lied about everything. I confronted her again, asking her directly if she'd been sleeping with Robert. Her face twisted into this disgusted sneer, and she told me I was crazy, that I was imagining things, that Robert was just a friend who was helping her with work. She kept saying she loved me, that I was overreacting. But how could I believe her after everything I'd seen? I didn't. I started to piece things together. Her secretive messages, her strange behavior, her sudden coldness and bitchy attitude whenever I asked her about her phone or her whereabouts. I knew I had to get proof, something concrete. I couldn't keep trusting her word anymore. So, I started digging deeper. I installed a spy app on her phone when she wasn't looking. It wasn't easy, and honestly, I felt sick doing it, but I needed to see what she was hiding. And what I found confirmed it all. She had dozens of messages with Robert, more than I could count. Explicit stuff, plans to meet up, photos, even a few where she was clearly in bed with him. It wasn't just a fling, it was a full-blown affair. And she'd been lying about it for months, right under my nose. That realization hit me like a punch in the gut. She had been planning her new life with him, all while pretending she loved me and was committed. I was furious. Not just angry, but furious in a way I'd never felt before. How could she betray me like this? She'd lied about everything, about love, about her fidelity, about her loyalty. And the worst part was, she didn't seem to care about how much she'd hurt me. When I confronted her with the proof, she snapped. Her reaction. She yelled, called me paranoid, called me insecure. Tried to convince me it was all some misunderstanding, that Robert was just a work thing, that I was making a mountain out of a molehill. But I wasn't buying it, not anymore. I saw her real face, cold, selfish, manipulative. She was really good at lying, but I caught her red-handed. That night everything exploded. I told her I knew about Robert, about the affair, about how she'd been cheating on me for months. She started crying, but not because she was sorry. No, it was all fake tears designed to manipulate me, to make me feel guilty. She said she loved me, that it was just a mistake, that she was confused, and that Robert was just someone she was borrowing time with until she decided what she really wanted. I felt sick listening to her spin her lies. I couldn't believe she'd talk so casually about sleeping with another man, about throwing away our life together just like that. That was the moment I knew I had to do something about it. I couldn't stay married to a woman who played me like that. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and completely lost. The trust was gone. I looked at her and saw the bitch she was, cold, calculating, and selfish. I realized that no matter what I said or did, things would never be the same. She made her choice, and I was just the fool who didn't see it coming. I was angry at her, at myself, at everything. And deep down, I knew I had to plan my next steps carefully. I needed a way to get out, but I also wanted to make sure she paid for what she did. My mind raced with thoughts of revenge, justice, whatever you want to call it. I just knew I couldn't keep living like this, pretending everything was okay. After that night, I couldn't sleep at all. The anger and hurt just kept building up inside me like a ticking time bomb. I knew I couldn't just walk away without making her realize she'd messed up badly. I had to hit her where it hurt, but I also had to be smart about it. I started planning my next move carefully. First, I needed more evidence, something undeniable that she couldn't deny or spin her way out of. I didn't want her to gaslight me into thinking I was crazy again. So, I set up a few hidden cameras around the house, especially where I suspected she'd meet Robert next. I also kept an eye on her phone, checking her messages and calls. I wasn't proud of spying, but I felt I had no choice. I wanted her to see I wasn't some gullible fool anymore. And sure enough, the footage I got was worse than I imagined. One night, I caught her sneaking out of the house after I had gone to bed, her phone in her hand, looking around nervously. I saw her slip into Robert's car and they drove off together. I recorded the whole thing. It was the moment I knew I had enough proof to finally confront her properly. I also stumbled upon some more damning messages. She'd been discussing plans to leave me, to start fresh with Robert. She told him she was tired of pretending, that she hated how she'd been lying to me, and that she wanted to get rid of me once and for all. The words hurt more than anything. The woman I loved, the woman I'd planned a future with, had been secretly plotting her escape for months. And she was so brazen about it, like she didn't care. Who got hurt? I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach again, but this time I knew exactly what she was planning. The next day I decided I couldn't wait any longer. I needed to confront her face to face and get some answers. I waited until she came home from work, my heart pounding like crazy. When she walked in, she was her usual bitchy self, rolling her eyes, snapping at me for no reason. I told her I knew everything about her affair with Robert, the planning, the lying. Her reaction. She just sneered and said I was overreacting, that I was just jealous and insecure. She accused me of inventing things, of trying to control her, but I had the evidence now. I played the recordings on my phone loud enough for her to hear. Her face lost all color and she froze. That's when she finally lost her cool. She started yelling, calling me all kinds of names, possessive, crazy, jealous. She said Robert was the real man she wanted, that I was just a boring, predictable husband who couldn't satisfy her anymore. She told me she was tired of pretending she loved me, that she'd already made up her mind and was going to leave me. She even spat in my face and told me I was just a dog who didn't deserve her loyalty. The betrayal hit me like a brick wall. How could she be so cold, so callous? I realized then that she'd been planning this for a long time and I was just the last fool to find out. I felt my entire world crumbling. I was furious, but I also felt a deep sadness. I loved her, but she'd thrown that all away. Her lies, her manipulations, they destroyed everything I thought we had. I looked at her and saw a woman I no longer recognized. The woman who had told me she loved me and wanted a future, gone. All that was left was a bitchy, selfish woman who'd been sleeping around behind my back and lying through her teeth. I knew I had a choice: stay and keep getting hurt or walk away and try to rebuild my life. Honestly, part of me wanted to smash something or lash out, but I knew that wouldn't fix anything. I just stood there, stunned, trying to process what was happening. That confrontation was a turning point for me. After she left the room, I just sat on the couch, staring at my phone, trying to breathe through the rage and the heartbreak. I felt betrayed on every level, emotionally, physically, mentally. All those years I'd spent building a life with her, and she'd been planning her exit with her boss behind my back. I kept asking myself how I could have missed all the signs, how I could have been so blind to the person she really was. The woman I thought I knew had been a complete facade, a master of lies and manipulation. I knew I had to do something, not just to get her out of my life, but to make her realize what she'd thrown away. I didn't want her to think she could cheat and walk away unscathed. I needed a plan that would hit her where it hurt, leave her with no doubt that she'd lost someone who truly loved her. That night I stayed up, not just to figure out my next steps, but to process what I was feeling: anger, sadness, betrayal, and a strange sense of clarity. I realized I couldn't keep pretending everything was okay. I had to face reality and take control. The next morning I decided to get some space. I told her I needed time to think, that I couldn't be around her anymore until I sorted my head out. I packed a bag and left for a week. I didn't tell her my plan, of course. I just needed to get away from her toxic energy, from the lies. I stayed at a friend's place, trying to clear my mind, but I was constantly thinking about what I'd do next. I knew I had to do something big to make her understand how much she'd hurt me. But what? I kept wrestling with the idea of revenge, not just ending it, but making her regret ever crossing that line. While I was gone, I kept collecting evidence. I wanted her to see that I wasn't just some naive guy who got played. I was smart, capable of fighting back and making her pay. I installed more hidden cameras around the house, recorded her frantic calls to Robert, saw how she was preparing to leave me, her packing her bags, leaving little clues behind that she was planning her escape. It all confirmed what I already knew. She had been cheating on me for months, and she didn't care how much she'd hurt me. She was ready to toss everything away just to be with Robert. Honestly, I started feeling a cold, calculated resolve. I realized if I was going to do this right, I had to be strategic. I couldn't just explode and shout at her every time I saw her. I had to make her feel the pain of losing someone who truly cared. I planned on confronting her again with all the evidence, but this time I wanted to make it sting. I wanted her to see that her betrayal had consequences. That's when I decided I'd expose her to everyone, our friends, her family, even her boss if I had to. I wanted her to understand that she'd destroyed her own life with her selfishness. When I finally returned home a week later, I felt different. I wasn't the broken guy she'd left behind. I was ready to face her head-on. I sat her down, laid out everything I'd found, proof of the affair, her plans to leave, her lies. Her reaction was everything I expected. Denial, anger, more lies. She tried to gaslight me again, calling me paranoid and insecure. But I was prepared this time. I played the recordings and showed her the photos. Her face paled as she realized I'd caught her dead to rights. She tried to manipulate me with tears and fake apologies, but I saw through her. I knew she was just trying to save herself, to keep her options open. I finally told her enough was enough. I told her I was done playing her game, that I was filing for divorce and that she'd never get away with cheating on me, lying to me, and disrespecting everything we had. I felt a strange mixture of relief and anger. Relief because I'd finally taken control, and anger because I let her hurt me so deeply for so long. As I stood there, confronting her with everything, I realized I was done being the fool she manipulated. I was done being her pawn. It was time to take my life back, even if it meant losing her forever. That's when I knew I couldn't stay with someone who had no respect for me or our vows. I needed to rebuild without her. The aftermath hit me harder than I expected. Once I laid everything out, proof, recordings, every lie, I saw her face twist with rage and desperation. She begged, pleaded, even tried to spin her way out of it, telling me it was all a misunderstanding, that Robert was just a fling, that she loved me but was weak. But I wasn't buying it anymore. I felt hollow, like I'd been gutted from the inside out. The woman I loved, the woman I thought I was going to marry, was gone. She'd been cheating behind my back for months, planning her escape, and I finally saw her for what she really was: selfish, manipulative, and utterly incapable of loyalty. I told her I wanted a divorce, no more excuses, no more lies. I wanted out of this toxic mess she created. She screamed, called me an idiot, said I was overreacting, that I'd ruin everything. But I knew I couldn't stay. Every moment with her now felt like a betrayal. I was broken, but I was also determined. I started thinking about how I'd move on, how I'd rebuild my life from the rubble. It wasn't just about ending the marriage anymore. It was about reclaiming myself, my dignity, and my peace of mind. In the days that followed, I took concrete steps. I hired a lawyer, began sorting out the divorce papers. I also cut contact with her entirely, blocked her on social media, changed my number, and avoided places I knew she might show up. Every time I saw her name or heard her voice, I felt a surge of anger. How could she do this to me? How could she so casually destroy what we had? I kept reminding myself that I deserved better, that I wouldn't let her get away with ruining my life. I also started talking to friends about it, those who knew us both, and I realized I wasn't alone in feeling betrayed. What struck me most was how cold she became once she realized I was serious about leaving. She suddenly played the victim, crying and saying I was overreacting, that she'd never meant to hurt me, that she loved me once. But her words didn't matter anymore. Her actions had already proven her true character. I saw through it all. Deep down, I felt a strange sense of relief, like I was finally freeing myself from the chains of her lies. Still, the pain lingered. It's one thing to know someone betrayed you. It's another to actually accept it and move forward. But I knew I had to, for my own sake. I started focusing on myself. I hit the gym, took up new hobbies, and made plans to travel alone. I realized that I'd spent so much time trying to hold on to someone who didn't deserve it that I'd lost sight of who I was. Now was the time to rebuild, to find my own happiness again. The betrayal cut deep, but it also taught me a harsh lesson. Never ignore the signs, never ignore your gut, and never let someone treat you like a second option. I still feel the sting of what she did, but I also feel stronger for finally standing up for myself. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know I won't let anyone hurt me like that again. And honestly, that realization is what keeps me going. Looking back now, I can't believe I stayed so long before finally seeing her for who she really was. The betrayal cut so deep, but it also woke me up. I learned that no matter how much you love someone, if they're willing to cheat, lie, and manipulate, then they don't deserve that love. I spent years building a future with Emily, thinking we had something real, but her actions showed me it was all just a facade. She was never the person I thought she was, just a selfish woman who wanted her escape route planned out while pretending to be loyal. The hardest part was the emotional roller coaster. There were moments I thought I'd never recover, that I'd carry this pain forever. But over time, I realized that the pain was a part of healing. It forced me to confront my own worth, to stop accepting less than I deserve. I learned to trust my instincts more, to listen when my gut warns me about red flags, even if I want to ignore them. The experience hardened me in some ways, but it also made me more cautious, more aware of the kinds of people I bring into my life. As for her, I hope she finally understands what she lost, someone who loved her genuinely, who would have done anything for her. But her choices sealed her fate. I don't harbor hatred. Instead, I feel a strange sense of relief. I'm free from the lies, from the constant doubt, from the feeling that I was settling for a version of love that wasn't real. Now, I'm focusing on myself, on healing and moving forward. I'm not the same man I was when I first met her, and honestly, I wouldn't want to go back. This whole ordeal has taught me one thing. Respect for myself is more important than any relationship. I won't let anyone treat me like I'm less than I am. I've learned that sometimes you have to lose someone to see your true worth. Betrayal hurts like hell, but it also opens your eyes, makes you realize what you truly need and deserve. I'm still healing, still rebuilding, but I know I'll come out stronger on the other side. And if there's one thing I want anyone reading this to take away, it's that no matter how bad it gets, you have the power to stand up, walk away, and find a better life. Because at the end of the day, the only person you should rely on to be there for you, through everything, is yourself.